This is how to mount and wire your Valentine 1 Gen 2 radar detector to a BMW GSAdventure 1300. As you saw in the last video, I finally had to accept that this thing is not going to easily fit in here using the quad lock stuff like I wanted to. Although the device fits, the only way I'd really be able to make it work is do another fancy design build like I did for the last BMW and prototype and machine them and anodize them and all that. I just don't want to spend the time doing it. I had to do a stem mount on the Aprilia, and I don't care as much for the ram mount rubber netting across the top. This bike actually has adaptive cruise control, which means behind this piece right here, you're generating radar, is what the dealer told me. I always thought it was sonar before, but whatever. But you're generating some kind of a signal that comes out to sense how close the car in front of you is. They had one customer that mounted his radar detector basically right in front of this thing, and then he was having issues with the ACC not working. And that kind of makes sense, right? Because he put it right in front of it. So I think, you know, if we were to put it up here and block it, that would be bad. I think anywhere, I've seen guys even tuck them down in the fairings down here before, which I don't like, but at any rate, you know, I'm not sure what the science behind it really says about clearance or anything like this, but the more you can get it out of the way, the better. But I also like the idea of having it low profile. So let me try a couple of these and see how it looks. So I'm going to take the easier approach, which is more practical in this case, and just use off-the-shelf quad lock gear to mount it right over here. And I will use power from the cable that comes to the nav system. I'll just splice into that and set that up here as well. First component I need to install is going to be the universal adapter for the quad lock, and that's going to go right on the bottom of the Valentine. I'm going to pretty much center it. I've already taken a picture of the UPC code on my Valentine because sometimes they ask for that if you're doing like a warranty thing or anything, but this should go kind of dead center here. So I'm going to clean this with acetone just to get any oils or mold release, anything that we don't want there, off the Valentine before sticking this on. While that's drying over here, take out the universal mount. Now, they actually give you an alcohol prep pad with the quad lock for doing just what I did with the degreaser stuff. So you have that option too if you don't have chemicals laying around. And there's just a peel back on it. I'll make the writing all vertical. That's just me being picky. And I'm going to put it centered and right there. Okay. And then you want to push it, make sure it's all in place and firm. And once you're out in the sun on your first day, that sun will bake the adhesive in well. It'll soften it and let it really get sticky everywhere for you. If it's cold, like if it were only 40 degrees out in this garage or something, I would have taken a heat gun and heated this area up, both the adhesive side and the actual radar. But it's Texas and it's almost April, so it's plenty warm here. Okay, so there's that. Step one. Now we want to actually get it to this. So I'm going to use the same mount that I used over here on this handlebar size for my phone mount. So this is the bar clamp medium, and I believe we have about a 32 millimeter bar here, and quad lock will put a wrench in somewhere. This one here is hiding in the cardboard piece that goes in the spacers. So we open this up. Now we'll make sure we have the right clamp and spacer for these handlebars, and we'll also grab our vibration isolator. that's what's going to go up on top. May not necessarily need these vibration isolators, but like I said in the quad lock for the phone mount video, I'm installing them just because I want to get the whole gamut of products from quad lock to try out, and it never hurts to isolate electronics with vibration and stuff like this. All right, so I put the clamp in place, and I want it so that the face mount is facing upward because the Valentine is going to have to face forward. All right, now here I've put the vibration mount directly to the clamp, and it's just a little bit too snug because it's kind of hitting this, it's kind of hitting the riser clamp. So that's not going to work. So I'm definitely going to have to use some kind of spacer to get it up just a little bit higher and away from those riser clamps. And you can see on the phone mount, I had that lever, but that's different because the phone is facing up and at me. In the case with the radar, it's going to be sitting flat looking forward. So I can't use the lever like I did on the phone mount. All right, so I have this little knuckle. It's for using it for 90-degree or other angles, but you can use it as an extension. So that's the shortest option. I could put that in there if I wanted, and then put the vibration isolation on top of it. And you can kind of see that's what it would look like. And then you just put the vibration isolator on top of it. That's one option, the shortest. And the second option is called the dual pivot small. And so you can, again, face it upward like this and see it shooting out there. So that's option 2. And this third option is called the dual pivot medium. And you can see that would extend it out just a little bit more. Now, the longer the moment arm, the more, in theory, vibration or chance for moving it or anything. But, you know, these are the 3 options we have. So this is where the biggest one, which was the medium, would set us. And it would work. It's maybe longer than we need. And just putting this arm in there, don't forget we still have that vibration isolator to go between them when it's all stacked up. And then this is that knuckle. And so it would go down here, again with the vibration isolator between them. And then this is the small dual pivot, which is our middle option for this. And that kind of seems to be the one that's the best, I think. I'm going to start with this one. I think the knuckle was too short. I may not need the full length of that longer one, the medium. So let me start with the small one, which is our middle option. You have to loosen this screw, and then that allows the ball ends to move around to where you can assemble everything. You actually take that cover, will pop off. It's not easy, but it does. You just have to work it. All right, so that comes out. And then you can see on the end here, and basically you can see these are like gears facing outward. So the mating for that is going to be the one gears facing inward, and you'll quickly feel it that that's the right one. So now I just want a bolt to go through there, which comes with that kit. And now what you're going to do is put the screw down the bottom of it, and that'll fasten it to that handlebar clamp. All right, once you have that all tight, and you want to make sure it's as far in towards the riser clamp as you can, because you can see the handlebars get narrower as they go out towards the mirrors. Now you'll take your rest of the stem and put it on the ball joint at the bottom, and then tighten that screw back up. And you don't have to tighten it all the way, but get it back to where it's snug at least. And you got a little bit of motion, but it stays where you put it. And you also want to make sure that you're allowing clearance for the lid on your master cylinder. So don't put it in a place where you can't get the master cylinder off anymore. Just make sure you allow yourself clearance. Now you put the vibration isolator on, tighten the screw down for that. And don't forget that bolt that holds the 2 halves of the stem together is still a little bit loose. Don't forget to tighten that at the end. There goes my shop manager. Doesn't actually do any work, just lets me do all the work. He's a straight shooter from the hip. He's got middle management written all over him. This was the handlebar mount I'd bought originally for the phone mount, But because I used the phone charging thing, I didn't need the actual quad lock thing on the top. So I'm going to use that for the radar. You also have the blue option, which is plastic. I think the black one is anodized aluminum, so I would prefer to use that. It matches the black on everything else, plus I prefer aluminum over plastic. And there you can see I still have the actual quad lock device here. And you can see on the back, you got to take that off. This little white thing basically holds that screw in place that holds this whole spring-loaded assembly together. So don't lose the screw, just take the white thing off and then put it up here on your vibration mount. And it's best to have the quad lock handle coming off one of the longer sides. In other words, since my radar is longer front to back, I want it going off either left or right. All right, now everything's pretty well set. Now I'm going to actually take the radar and put it in place. You can see you just push it down with a lever. Now remember, handlebars move, so make sure that you have it adjusted such that you're not going to be hitting the dash or anything else when you move the handlebars. So get that adjusted correctly. All right, now that we're getting closer, now what we want is to adjust the actual Valentine in terms of body position. So you want it clearing everything like that, but you also want it to be looking straight ahead with the bars straight, and you want it to be flat, but you want it to be about a 3-degree tilt downward as it looks forward. So that way the Valentine will catch bounce of radar signals off the pavement ahead of you. In order to determine these angles or how level it is, I'm going to just use an app on the phone. It's easy enough to snag one off the Google App Store. And by using this, it basically uses accelerometers in the phone and gives you the image of a bubble level, like if you were doing a survey tool or something. Now, obviously, the bike has to be in body position, how you're going to be riding it. So I need to sit on it first. And now I'll put the phone on top of it, and I'll continue to adjust everything until I get my 0 degrees left to right and 3 degree down in the front. And don't do this while the bike's on the center stand, because that's going to affect how level the bike and radar are. Once you have the angles you want, everything's clearing. Now just go back and tighten that screw on that stem to make sure it's all tight. All right, now comes the wiring. And you're going to get the standard kit with the Valentine one. It's got an inline fuse if you want. Remember, this bike has a 5 amp circuit for all the accessories up here. So I already have the Garmin, I already have the phone charging, and now the radar is coming off of this too. So it'll be under the 5 amps, but not by a whole lot. Even though these come with Scotch locks, I wouldn't use them. I would just hardwire it in this case. There are multiple ways to wire this in. I'm going to use the power that goes to the Garmin because I'm already spliced into that for the Garmin itself anyway. So I'm just going to do that. You could use the DIN connector if you want back here, but I'm saving that because I want to use it for an isolation relay for a FLIR thermal imaging system later back here. But I guess just be advised, if you hook up all these same things, the Garmin, the radar, and the phone charger, and then you try to put like a heated vest or something, you're probably going to blow your 5 amp circuit. And then I also have the cords. Valentine is great at giving you way too much cord for a motorcycle, so I always end up making a shorter one that just goes that little distance I need. And then you have your box that'll go to and power feeds to that. Of course, in looking for the small cord that I wanted, I found the old Gen 2 V1 from the old BMW, which means I really didn't have to buy this new one for this bike. Oh well. So now I'm figuring out what length of cord do I need, and then I can chop it down and put a new connector on the end of it. So I figure out, okay, I need it about right there. and you have to think about where you're going to mount your the little J box or whatever you want to call it. All right, so I cut that part off. And now you have to make sure that you're getting the connector on right. So these connectors have a upside down versus correct. You want to make sure that the cable with it straight, and you can see this one has a little bit more of a rubber protector on it. The new one will not. There's the connectors, RJ111, whatever they are, and there's the crimpers. Make sure that you can see, okay, which side is the tab on, and then lay it out straight, and it's going to go on that way. You'll have to actually strip back a little bit of that sheath first. So you want to get the black sheath off, but not so deep that you're actually getting the individual wire sheaths. All right, again, we've got it this way. The tab is down. We run the straight cord. We get to the other end, and we make sure that the tab is down on this side too. Insert the wires in all the way. Make sure you can see the colored wires all the way to the end. And then put it in the crimper and crimp it. I'm going to use the more rubber protected end to go direct into the Valentine, and then I'm going to use the other end I just created into the main port of this little J box. Accessory one would be if you use like a Mark Parnes LED thing like what I have over on the Aprilia. Now you have your black and your red wire coming all the way down here. So I'm going to chop both of those off at a distance that's reasonable. Strip both of the ends off. And these will get soldered to the leads that I have for the power for the nav system over here. So I'm just going to tie them to these right now. It's all raw yet. I'm just going to tie them in and just make sure to do a quick test that everything works before I solder and shrink tube everything. Black to black, red to red. Hit the button and pops up. Great. That's a good sign. Now I'm going to connect everything together. So basically the power lead for the navigation is going to now feed both the Garmin and the Valentine. So I'll solder all those together and use shrink tubing and everything to make it a nice clean install, and then use some dual lock to attach that little J box for the Valentine down on the frame. All right, now that I've routed my power here with my shorter cable, I have this spliced in so the radar detector meets the joint of the power coming out from behind here, as well as the power feeding from the Garmin piece here. So I've got a three-way, no, not that kind, going in here for the wiring. I've soldered it, put the shrink fit over it. Before I put the big shrink tube over and clean it all up, just want to make sure once more that it all works well. So I'm going to hit the power. I've got radar, and I've got the Garmin too. So everything looks happy. Let me make sure that the Garmin is charging once it comes to life. I've already got this selected on the little L. There we go, Garmin. Says accept all. Yeah, greaser. And it is charging. So looks like everything's good. I'm just going to finish putting this final pieces of shrink tube and then clean up all the cables in there. And this is what the final product looks like. You can see this cable here. I took out of the nav, routed it around there. It tees into that cable, which goes down here to the Valentine. And then there's the little Valentine box with the main and accessory and everything. I tied those cables back. This one actually, I just used the wire clamps. Kind of cool, instead of just wire ties, they have a little reusable rubber one. And then through here, and it wraps around to the bottom of the box. And again, because these things have such a big turning radius, you want to make sure that everything clears okay and it's not going to be pulling on your wires. If you haven't done so, please click the link below to subscribe, hit the little bell for notifications, and let's live for today.